Hi, I'm Cameron. I think you've figured that out by now, but if you haven't, that's perfectly fine. Um, Maybe we're not acquainted yet, so I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Cameron, and I had something specific I wanted to talk about today. First of all, I'm fine. I know that last video was a little concerning. I'm not quite throwing in the towel just yet. I just kind of tend to shift through extremes, and I hide that a bit too much in my normal day-to-day life, and I didn't want to hide that here in a place where I feel like I'm allowed to be myself a little bit more. And on account of that, there is something specific I wanted to kind of talk about today because it's something I've noticed. With that last video, multiple people reached out to me concerned and kind of just checking up on me, and a lot of you left really nice comments as well, and I genuinely really appreciate that. All of the people who left really negative comments calling me a loser and saying that nobody cared, I appreciate you guys too, because you commenting still helps the algorithm, so more people saw the videos because of that. So appreciate that, especially, you took the time out of your day to write how little nobody cared. It really means a lot to me that you care that much, so I appreciate that. But there was one thing I didn't appreciate very much. I had two missed phone calls because my phone's on mute a lot of the time. That's my recommendation for today, by the way. Keep your phone on mute. Don't check your notifications a lot of the time. 90% of the time, it's nothing to worry about. I have never, ever missed a phone call that dictated my future. Well, I guess the only time that could have been a problem is when I was waiting on a phone call to hear back from my hospital job. But I didn't have my phone on silent during that. I had all numbers except for that one muted. So, I had two missed phone calls from the 988 helpline. Now, maybe some of you aren't familiar with that, but the old phone number was 1-800-273-8255. Before, if you used to call 1-800-273-8355, you got a sex talk line. Learned that one the hard way. It doesn't do that anymore. You can go and check. It doesn't do that anymore. But for those of you who are unaware, that's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I had a couple of missed calls from the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and that's something that anyone can do. They can call in and they can go, hey, this isn't for myself. I'm concerned about a loved one or a friend. Could you please give them a call? Now, the problem with this is I don't want to talk to someone whose job it is to give me a lollipop and tell me things are going to be okay. That might sound a bit harsh, but that's the role of the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I would know. I used to work for it. Our objective, not our objective, I don't work there. The objective, based off of the way that I was trained, and this might just be my Cliff Notes version of it, nobody literally said this, is we're not fixing their problem. We're just helping them work through their problem in the moment to make it like another day. We're helping them calm down and get that frantic situation out of their system, so that way, once they're more calmed down out of that moment, we can give them the resources that then enable them to get better. An example might be like somebody calls in and they're having suicidal ideation, and we help them work through that. We help them stay calm, like take deep breaths, like, maybe just touch the wall for a second, maybe just like go outside for a breath of fresh air or something like that, maybe get a drink, and then go like, you just sprinkle things in, it's like you're used car salesman, but the used car you're selling is mental health, and mental health is important. I can't think of a cleverer way of saying that. But it might be like, oh, well, you mentioned that like you have a party coming up, who's going? And that gets them to start thinking about people they might care about who's going to be at the party, and realize like, well, maybe they're not alone. Then you give them the resources, like maybe you should check out this place, maybe here's a good therapist I know about who deals with these situations. It's not fixing their problem. And that was something that I disliked about working there, is that I wanted to directly help people, and I didn't feel like saying, oh, it's okay, yeah, that's really rough, you're a very strong person for dealing with all of that. I didn't like doing that because it wasn't really fixing the problem. My aspirations were a little bit too big for that going into the mental health industry, because it was like I want to solve depression. But the cruel reality of that is that if depression didn't exist, then the mental health industry wouldn't, and I wouldn't get paid, which is why I quit. I've watched a few videos from other people who were in a similar circumstance, where they kind of realized, if I do my job correctly, I don't have a job, and I just don't like the way that the system is set up to kind of exploit people. If people were just fixed, then there wouldn't be a need for it. That was my problem with it. So, calling the National Suicide Prevention Hotline on me is one of the worst things that someone can do for me. I worked there. I know very well how those systems are set up. Listening to somebody who's being disingenuous, who's reading off of a script and has a monitor in the top right corner of their screen measuring how likely I am to need to have the police called on me, is not going to help me work through my existential dread. It doesn't distract me from my problems. It kind of highlights them, because a lot of my problems stem from the fact that I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and I don't want to work in that field anymore. So it's getting a notification on my phone that reminds me that the career path I chose for myself didn't work out. I'm not saying that whoever did this did it in bad faith. If anything, it's flattering that somebody cares that much to where they'd take the action for that. Excuse me, I just burped. Sorry about that. However, here's the difference. They could have just called to ask how I was doing. They don't need to contact the authorities. And I know, but Cameron, the National Suicide Prevention's not the authorities. No, but they are in direct contact with the authorities, and if I said something that was a bit extreme, would have had to deal with that. That's the correct phrasing on that. I've gotten locked up for going to the doctor's office with a migraine, saying, I don't know what's causing this. And then them going, well, you have suicidal history, so we're going to lock you up. This is why I don't go to the hospital. This is why I just go for walks and drink water and get 8 hours of sleep. I do not want to go to a place where my problems are overwritten because of certain other problems that I have, and that's frustrating. And this leads to a greater point of why I can't really ask for help from people, because people don't know how to help me, and that's nobody's job. I don't expect anyone to lay down everything that they're doing and be like, I'm here for you. I think that's a very selfish thing to do. Now, saying that you don't want your loved ones to help you because you don't want to strain them, you don't want to be a burden on them, and then saying that that's a selfish thing to say maybe implies a different type of problem. Maybe thinking that there's a problem with wanting help from people is a problem in of itself, and I'm not saying that it isn't. It's just that the problem is that people don't know how to help me because they don't understand me. And that's a problem I've dealt with my entire life. One of my earliest memories is of preschool, where one of the children, if you will, sorry about that, my middle school English teacher told me to never call a child a kid because it's a young goat. But you're the goat, Mrs. English teacher, I'm not going to say your name. You're the goat. I love you. I mean that. I don't know, you're probably not watching this. I don't think you know what the internet is, but you're the best. A child in the group was excitedly showing one of the caretakers that they were reading through this book. And it was like a little picture book for babies, obviously, because we were babies. And it had like a picture of a seal, and it said seal. And now as a 24-year-old man, I can say this kind of sounds like one of the best books ever written. I would probably happily sit down and read that entire book if I found it at the local bookstore. That sounds pretty awesome if I'm being entirely honest. But I remember thinking, what's the big deal? I can read. Because I learned to read playing Grandia 2 for the Dreamcast. I would play with my dad, and then whenever he would go to work, I wouldn't be able to read well enough to progress the plot. So I just started the game over and over and over again. And I remember the first word I learned how to read was hell, because every time the main character was like, ow, what the hell? My mom got really mad about that and said I shouldn't be playing that. And then I kind of just managed to associate the words on the screen with what was being said, and I just knew how to read from that point on. I was horrible at phonics because I didn't need to sound words out. I just knew what they were. And then I remember in kindergarten, one of the first graders was bragging about reading a chapter book. And then I said, I can do that too. I just read The Hobbit. And I got beaten up for that. And I said I was a liar, and I got like shoved into a puddle or something. And I went to go tell the teacher, and they didn't do anything. Did I mention in that last, like a couple of videos ago, how much I hate this place? I have more than enough reason to feel that way about it. So, ever since a very young age, I've been different, and I've always felt extremely isolated from other people, and I've always felt like I don't really have anyone who genuinely understands me. And through my attempts at trying to understand other people, I've realized that I was searching for reciprocation in a place where that couldn't exist. Why does someone like me, who has years of experience, not many years, just plural, more than one, of working in the mental health industry and a degree in the subject, go to my friends who never went to college, who've been working at the same 9-to-5 fast food restaurant for the past decade for emotional advice? No, simply put, it's because I never really had that when I was younger, and now to an extent I don't have that in the same way I would have wanted. That's not to say that people don't love me. I have a lot of people in my life who love me, and I love them more than they could ever imagined. I mean, I love whoever is watching this right now. If people hate each other for no reason, I don't need a reason to care about someone. But the difference is that my problems can't be so easily defined as objective. And what I mean by that is that money is an objective problem. A person cannot have enough money. Starving to death, having a place to sleep that's stable, being in an area that is physically safe for a person. These are objective problems. I don't have any addictions. I don't have any vices. I don't do drugs or anything like that. I've never even like smoked a cigarette before. I don't drink, you know. I have very existential problems that stem from the lack of reciprocation in the relationships that I couldn't form when I was growing up and the relationships I continue to form now. And as a result of that, I'm really good at faking it. I'm really good at saying what someone wants me to hear or pretending to be a version of myself that's more digestible. And as a result of that, when the facade starts to crack and I lose the ability to pretend, then people think that something's wrong. A good example of this, I might have talked about this before, but you know, most of the people watching these videos aren't returning subscribers, so if I repeat myself, you guys, you're in the know, you're in the official top 1 club, and it's a nice news story for somebody else. I went out to eat with a group of people, and I guess that I forgot my mask at home that day because I was kind of just sitting there eating as they talked about their houses and the big game and their wives and how their work was going and whatnot. And one of them turns to me and says, "What's wrong, Cameron?" And I go, "Nothing." And they're like, "Well, you're just sitting there not saying anything." And I look at him, I look down at my plate, and I look back up, and I finish swallowing the noodles that were in my mouth, and I say, "Because I'm eating?" And then that didn't fix the problem. I had to make an extremely inappropriate joke about making his wife cheat on him with me. And then this made the whole table laugh really hard. I got a pat on the back and said, "There's the Cameron that we know." And I looked down at my plate of really crappy noodles. And I took another bite. I filled up another chopstick full. And I thought, yeah, there's the Cameron that they know. So when people who don't understand me try to help, it doesn't feel like they're actually helping. They're not helping because they care about Cameron, me. They don't care about me, who I actually am. They just care about a person that they know of named Cameron. They don't like me. They like Cameron, who they see. And an answer to this would be just be yourself then, man. I do try to be myself. Then that results in people not liking me. A friend of mine who runs a bar downtown. I've known him for about 7 or 8 years now at this point. And he's like 10, 20 years older, you know. He's lived a life. One time I was down there. It's an arcade. I wasn't drinking. It's an arcade. It's just a bar arcade, a arcade bar, if you will. And they had DDR. No, it wasn't DDR. It was Pump It Up. Pump It Up is way better than DDR, by the way. DDR sucks. Go play Pump It Up. You will not like DDR anymore. I swear. So I asked him, like, do any of the people that used to come here when I was in high school ever come around here anymore? And he's like, not really. And I was like, well, I'm okay with that because I never really liked any of them. And they like kind of said I was an asshole, and I stopped coming. And he's like, really? You're not an asshole? I'm like, oh, well, we've known each other for like 7 years at this point. What do you think about me? And he was like, well, it's just that they're all nerds. They don't go outside. You're cool. You can talk to people. And I heard that and I was like, isn't this just normal? Isn't being social, like, isn't being able to carry yourself in a social situation, like, a normal thing? And something clicked in my head in that moment where I realized it's not that there's anything wrong with me. It's just that I live in the middle of nowhere where the only personality is football and hunting. Both great things, by the way. I've had very nice conversations about both of those things with genuinely great people. And all of my interests attract a certain type of person who doesn't necessarily have social skills. And what I mean by that is that I have a Maury Calliope figure on my desk right now. Anytime I've ever been around anyone who likes VTubers, I've felt a solid 5% scared for my life. And that number has only ever gone up. It's never gone down the more that I've gotten to know somebody who likes VTubers. If you want to know why this figure's on my desk, there's another video on this channel about that. I don't feel the need to explain it right now, but it is extremely funny. So, that's really what, like, the deal is. I can't ask for help because the people who are there to help don't understand me. A system that is designed to help someone who has very objective problems can't help me. Someone such as myself who has logical answers for existential problems can't be assisted by a stranger telling me it's going to be okay. There's maybe one person in the entire world who says it's going to be okay, Cameron, that I feel something from when they say that. Because I know that they mean it. Because they understand me. You, watching this video right now, could not possibly comprehend the way that I feel about things on the same level as that one person. And calling the suicide prevention hotline on me is not the correct play. You could have just called me yourself. Unless I blocked your number, in which case leave me alone already. I don't want anything to do with you. And that is extended to literally anyone whose number I have blocked. There's no takebacks. You messed up. In the same way that I messed up at trying to form a genuine connection with you because it didn't work out in one way or another. That's probably my fault. Or maybe it's not, and I shouldn't beat myself up so much. But the fact of the matter is that trying to figure things out is something that I have to figure out. It doesn't matter if I go and talk to a therapist who tells me things I already know. Which, by the way, the one time I ever had a therapist, they told me I already knew everything that I had to do to be okay, and I was already doing those things, and I didn't need a therapist. And I said to him, good, I never want to see you ever again. And then he said, I never want to see you ever again either. And then we hugged, and I invited him to my graduation, but he couldn't come because he was in Canada at the time. Nice guy. Nice guy. I like that guy. These are problems that come from within myself that I, myself, must deal with. And no amount of paragraph writing in somebody's private messages or 3 a.m. phone calls to a number designed to trick me into thinking things are okay is ever going to fix that. It's just hard right now. But that's fine. Because however awful I feel right now just means that there will be a day when I finally figure everything out and things will be okay. And I will know that that day has come because I have this feeling in my chest right now as a reference point for the way that things could be. The bad that I feel right now is the good that I felt before. That's just the way life is. And I don't really have anything else to say on the matter. Not right now, at least. The next video I'm probably going to be lying in bed going, hey guys, it's over. But that's what life is. It's just this constant yin and yang of it's so over and we're so back. It's things I lost a little bit of hope I didn't know I still had to let's just ball. Let's just go for it. And is there anything more beautiful than that? Than the constant struggle to live, that no matter how bad things get, we still get up again? And to me, that's a lot more important than a phone number calling me in the middle of the night saying, someone's worried about you. If they were so worried about me, they'd be here right now. Right now. Right where I'm sitting. I was going to say standing for the reference, but I'm not standing right now. I'm sitting. Maury's standing, but we're not going to worry about her anymore. Anyways, I cooked rice today, and I stole the technique that I saw the chef use when I was in Japan of like the way he managed the eggs and stuff, and I made it taste like that. I was like, oh my god, this tastes just like the restaurant did. And that's awesome. That was a really expensive meal that I could have made at home for 1/18 of the price. But I learned it. We're good. Hell yeah. That's what it's about. That's what life is about. And I had cereal afterwards. And I was hanging out with someone. And they were like, you're eating cereal after rice? And I was like, yeah? And I'm like, dude, what? I was like, well, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was such a problem. You know what else is a problem? That this video is not over yet. You have a nice rest of your day. I'm gonna have an even better day than that. Peace!